At precisely 02:17 p.m., US Arctic radar lit up red. Unusual movements pierced the silence near a top-secret Greenland base. 3 Russian vessels slithered through the icy depths, cloaked in darkness and deception. They thought they were invisible, but the US Navy had been lying in wait, eyes wide open. What started as a sneaky spy op was about to unravel into total chaos. Buckle up, this is the story of Russia's big mistake in the frozen north. Greenland isn't just a massive island of ice and rock, it's the ultimate chess piece in the high-stakes game of Arctic dominance. Spanning over 800,000 square miles, its coasts guard vital shipping lanes and house critical US installations like the Pituffik Space Base, formerly known as Thule. This remote outpost isn't for show. It's packed with ballistic missile early warning systems, satellite trackers, and underground bunkers that keep an eye on everything from Russian bombers to hypersonic missiles. The US has been ramping up its presence here for years. We're talking advanced icebreakers like the USCGC Healy, capable of smashing through multi-year ice packs. Submarines such as the USS Connecticut, stealthy hunters designed for under-ice operations, patrol these waters with nuclear-powered endurance. Overhead, MQ-9 Reaper drones equipped with infrared sensors scan for intruders, while ground-based radars pierce the polar night. All this to counter the growing shadow of Russian ambition in the melting Arctic. Russia's goal? Simple but sinister. A covert spy mission. Using their Bore-class submarines, massive beasts armed with Bulava missiles, they aim to slip in undetected. Accompanied by all-antenna drones for aerial reconnaissance, the plan was to gather intel on US defenses, map vulnerabilities, and maybe even plant listening devices. They figured the thick ice would hide them, but they underestimated America's Arctic edge. Tonight, that overconfidence would be put to the test in the most unforgiving environment on Earth. As tensions simmer globally, with Russia pushing claims on Arctic resources like oil and minerals, this base represents more than just a dot on the map, it's a front line in a new Cold War. The stage was set, the players in position. All it took was one wrong move to ignite the powder keg. From the icy fringes of the Barents Sea, the Russian flotilla began its stealthy advance, leading the pack with 3 submarines. The Lade 1, a sleek Yasin M class, packed with Kalibr cruise missiles and advanced sonar evasion tech. Flanking it were 2 older but reliable Delta RVs, designed for long-range patrols under polar ice. Above the surface, a squadron of 6 all-antenna drones buzzed ahead, their cameras trained on the horizon, relaying data back to Moscow in real-time bursts. They hugged the underwater ridges, using the natural cacophony of cracking ice to mask their engine hums. The plan was textbook espionage. Approach from the north, where satellite coverage thins out due to the Earth's curve. Slip past the source arrays, those underwater listening posts the US has strung across the ocean floor, and get within visual range of the Greenland base. Snap photos of radar domes, track troop movements, and vanish like ghosts in the blizzard. But here's where the tension ramps up. US sonar arrays, buried deep in the seabed and linked to AI-driven analytics, picked up the faintest anomalies. A propeller blade out of sync. A drone's electromagnetic whisper subtle signs that screamed intrusion. In the control room at Pituffik, alarms chirped softly at first, then blared. Operators zoomed in on the blips. We've got shadows at bearing 34 knots, depth 200 meters. They're probing our perimeter. The radar and sonar beeps grew louder, faster, like a heartbeat racing toward panic. A countdown overlay flashed on screens. 10 minutes to potential breach. US drones were scrambled silently, their electric motors whispering through the Arctic air. Submarines adjusted positions, forming an invisible net. The Russians pushed closer, oblivious to the noose tightening. One sub grazed an underwater ridge, sending a brief echo that lit up US boards like fireworks. Seconds ticked away as the cold waters turned into a silent battlefield. The ice above groaned under pressure, mirroring the mounting strain below. Would the Russians spot the trap, or would they plunge deeper into disaster? The Arctic's unforgiving chill amplified every mistake, and Russia was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The confrontation ignited like a spark on dry tinder. A US Arctic drone squadron, 4 MQ-9s armed with Hellfire missiles, swooped in from the south, their silent flight paths curving to block the Russian subs' escape routes. The lead Russian drone, hovering too low for recon, suddenly appeared on US scopes. Target acquired, barter operator. In a flash, a counter-drone jammer disrupted its signal. Then a precision strike from a nearby US icebreaker's CI West system shredded it mid-air. Debris rained into the sea, the first casualty of the night. Down below, the Yasen sub attempted a risky evasive maneuver, diving sharply under a massive ice floe. But the ice was thinner than expected. Climate change at work, and a jagged berg scraped its hull with a metallic screech that echoed through the water. US sensors locked on instantly. Contact confirmed. Bearing 215 came the call. The Greenland base sprang to life. Ice-penetrating missiles, like the experimental AGN-1588C LRA variants adapted for polar ops, were primed in silos buried under snow. Small tactical twists kept the adrenaline pumping. Another Russian drone tried to jam US communications, but a quick frequency hop from American systems turned the tables. Now the drone was broadcasting its own position like a beacon. The Delta sub split formation, one feinting east to draw fire, while the other pushed north. But US Virginia-class hunters were already in pursuit, their torpedoes loaded and props spinning quietly. Suspense hung thick in the frozen air. The Russians radioed frantic updates back home, but interference from US electronic warfare pods garbled the messages. One sub nearly surfaced for a desperate airburst transmission, then pulled back at the last second, avoiding a waiting drone overhead. It was a perfect trap, meticulously laid by years of Arctic training. The Russians didn't even know it yet, but their spy game was unraveling thread by thread. One wrong turn and it would all come crashing down. Then this happened, the climax no one saw coming. The first Russian sub, the Yasen leader, misjudged its depth and surfaced too close to the Arctic ice edge. Big mistake. US drones pounced like hawks, firing a salvo of anti-submarine rockets that slammed into its comms array. Sparks flew, systems fried, total blackout. The crew scrambled, but it was too late. They barely avoided a full breach, but the damage was done. Panic rippled through the flotilla. The two Delta subs tried a desperate retreat, throttling engines to full, but US forces had anticipated that. Arctic drones herded them like sheep into a narrow fjord, walls of ice closing in on both sides. One Delta clipped an underwater pinnacle, then this happened. A whole breach flooded the engine room. Water gushed in, alarms blaring as the sub listed dangerously. Short, punchy chaos ensued. Missiles from the Greenland base streaked across the sky, ice-penetrating warheads designed to punch through floes and strike below. The lead drone squadron, neutralized in seconds by EMP bursts from US countermeasures. Explosions lit the polar night, orange glows reflecting off glaciers. The Russians fired flares in a last-ditch evasion, but US AI-guided torpedoes homed in relentlessly. They barely avoided total disaster. At one point, a torpedo grazed the sub's fin, shearing it clean off without sinking the vessel. But the spy mission? Catastrophic failure. One by one, the assets were crippled, comms jammed, drones downed, subs forced to surface under duress. No shots fired directly at crews, just precise takedowns of tech and mobility. The US Navy executed flawlessly, 0 casualties on their side. Russia's bold play turned into a frozen fiasco, waves lapping over disabled hulls as the night claimed its victims. As the sun crept over the horizon, the Greenland base stood unshaken, its secrets intact. The Russian forces, what remained of them, slunk back into the shadows, a humiliating setback that echoed through Kremlin halls. Subs towed to safety, drones scattered in wreckage. This wasn't just a tactical blunder, it was an embarrassment exposing gaps in their Arctic playbook. Geopolitically, the ripples were massive. Russia's spy failure highlighted their over-reliance on outdated evasion tactics against US superiority in electronic warfare and drone tech. It sent a clear message. The Arctic is no longer a free-for-all. NATO allies, from Denmark to Canada, ramped up joint patrols, while US Arctic Command demonstrated unchallenged dominance. No lives lost, but pride shattered. This incident could fuel escalations, with Russia vowing revenge and the US fortifying further. In the end, it proved that in the frozen theater, intelligence isn't just power, it's survival. this Arctic showdown wrapped up in the early dawn. But the frozen frontier remains a powder keg waiting to blow. Russia will lick its wounds, regroup with better tech, and probe again. The US, ever vigilant, upgrading defenses to stay one step ahead. The next confrontation could erupt over resource claims, shipping routes, or even a misplaced drone, and it might happen sooner than anyone expects. If you were on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and drop a comment. What do you think Russia's next move will be? Subscribe now and hit the bell, don't miss our next scenario. Like China's fleet invades Arctic waters, US response shocks the world. Stay tuned for more high-stakes military dramas. Thanks for watching, see you in the next crisis.